Testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine, 10. Testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Like, geez, I know it's been a while, but wow, my settings are all kinds of jacked up. Let me know if it's not working out for you. Oops, this probably should be over here. Check it up on my stats as well, as far as my performance and such goes. And it looks like that my problem is Ethernet. And I mean, I have relatively high fast, but I don't have fiber optic. This is probably as good as it's gonna get. I'll have to look into maybe lowering the quality of my stream enough. Seems that my Ethernet is the problem. Dropping frames, but it's not happening right now. So hold on, let's hope that works out. Let's hope that works out. Okay, hi! I don't know, some people who probably have no idea who I am, especially if you're just now tuning in. I didn't even introduce myself. Hi, I'm Sean. I'm Fire of Life 2018. Thanks for being here. If this is the first time you've ever viewed my channel, I really appreciate it, considering the title of it. We're like, what the hell? Where are you in? Why is he back? We'll get to that. We'll get to that. But yeah, we got lots of stuff in the news going on today. I probably should have changed my background a bit to something a little more fun. There we go. That's fun to look at, right? I get my daily Microsoft backdrop situation. Stay hydrated, my friends. I wish this was something more colorful, but it's just water. I feel like, is it a white bottle? Because it's just water. Like, it's just plain, boring white. That's what. I feel like that's gonna be my epitaph. Plain, boring, white. That's me in a nutshell. Alright, so anyway, if you're just tuning in, I'm pretty stoned most of the time. I talk about the news. I think about running for office. I volunteer for the Red Cross. I try to do good things in the world in hopes that those things come back to me. Not always in the means and methods that I ask for, but isn't that the mean of most of it? The mean of most of it, right? I think I have a full screen camera screen too. See if this still works. Hey, look, you can see all the backness. I've been talking about, like, I have a green screen, and I've been thinking about putting the green screen back, but everybody keeps saying that it's supposed to be better to have a more interesting view in the background, so that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing right now. I sometimes have guests. We may have guests in the future. I have the ability to put people on camera. If you're out there and want to be in it, you can join the Discord. I'll put that link out here in the first. Boom, there's the Discord link. If you want to come join us, feel free. It's like one of those old timey call-in talk radio shows. You can totally come in and say your piece. If it's ridiculous, I can boot you. I have the ability to mute and boot everybody, so feel free to join the Discord. Don't be a dick or I'll boot you. A lot of times we talk about politics, so that comes up. I do kind of have political aspirations. I don't know if I want to call it political aspirations, as in I feel like the world is on fire and people need to do something, and I'm just terrified that this. I hate to even say the other side because I'm kind of a libertarian, but I feel like even those of us in the middle are looking at the far right now, being like, dude. So like, I have reached out to the Democratic Party and the Libertarian Party to possibly run for something in 2023. Like, we're talking town council kind of stuff, nothing big, but I maybe one day want to use this platform as like a political launch pad. Maybe I won't use this particular brand, but I think what I've learned here on this show will certainly translate into things that I do in the future. Indeed, indeed. So, I mean, I've had a lot of life-changing experiences in the past couple of weeks. So, like, if you're new, we do the Wednesday from 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. every Wednesday. I'm here. I will probably always do this from Wednesday. It's like my weekly therapy session, I guess. I get to talk to my friends that I don't get to see much anymore. Like, if you want to care about what's going on in my life, you check in every Wednesday. Here we are. That's what we know. Most recent drama, I went over to the flooding they had over in Tazewell County and worked for Red Cross as their disaster assessment team, which was super rewarding and enlightening. I'm now in a situation where I do volunteer work for them. I'm not affiliated. None of my views on the channel represent them in any way, shape, fashion, or form. They are very politically neutral, and I 100% get behind that. So we're helping everybody of every race, read, religion, credo, ethnicity, anything, whatever. You know, they help everybody to be help everybody. They can't be mad at the Red Cross for just being like, you know what, we're not gonna talk about any of that. We're gonna go over here and help some people. That's what we're gonna do. I get it. Staying out of this political mess is probably the whole huge sphere. I think we may have made some problems with where we've given our power to in the world. Like, these politicians only have power because that we give it to them by watching and caring. So speaking of the Discord and what we do on the channel, oh my gosh, I'm so all over the place. Let me finish the story about where I've been, since that's like the whole name of the situation of the story. Where I've been this week, I went to do the Tazewell. I did a flooding. You don't have, it's a whole shelter situation. It's nuts. I'm working for the Red Cross. I'm recruiting for them. You should join the Red Cross. Go to the website. Join the Red Cross. That's my stance on the Red Cross. Everyone should do it. Like, you've got 4 hours a month. You can be a DAT responder in your neighborhood. Give fire, like, help people who had their house just burned down. Who's wrong about that? Red Cross gets like 40% of the world's blood supply. Go give blood. You got blood. You never have way too much blood. Just go get some. It's fine. Yeah, don't represent the Red Cross at all, but that's where I've been. And then when I came back from said Red Cross helping flood victims, my basement was flooded. I was like, whoa, instant karma. What the? Okay. So I raged. I cried. I was real mad for a minute, but I think that I've gained and grown some in the future. I've learned a lot. I'm still taking some time away from it, being like, you know what? It's okay. And I was freaking out about my bed at the beginning of this, being like, oh, it's my favorite bed. I love that bed so much. And now I'm sleeping on a different one. And it's like, you know what? I probably sleep too much anyway. It's not that serious. I need to... Woosah. I talked to a lady in my travels. I'll be careful about where I talk to this person, who had recently lost power. Not even, like, affected by the disaster I was witnessing. And she said to me, what am I going to do about all my proteins, like all the meat and like things that I had in my freezer from my food stamps? Like, she basically went out to the she lives so far in the country. Like, some of the places I've been are just so far out in the country, you just don't even understand. I get it. She went out first of the month, spent all her food stamp money, put it in the freezer, and then lost power, and then lost all her food. That is probably a huge blow to somebody who's planned to, like, live off of that for the next month. I mean, I've just never thought about being that poor. I mean, I have been in life. You know, I've one time went to a Taco Bell, and they declined my credit card for a $2 charge. Like, I was that poor. I didn't have $2, 2 nickels to rub together. Couldn't even come up with the change in my car for $2. Like, I had some tight times too, but never to that point. I mean, I guess I've always had family and friends and support to be. I never really thought I was going to starve, but you live in the middle of the hills of middle of nowhere, you might not have that much friends or family around you that could immediately give you food. Like, you might have friends and family that live an hour or two away, but they might not have car, gas, they might not have the money to give you food, you know? Like, I just have never thought about how poor some people here in America are. Like, we don't think about America being that poor, and the Red Cross really reminds me of those things. We should be grateful for everything we have, and I am. That being said, I was real damn pissed when my basement was flooded. Oh, I was mad. So that's why I got the lesson taught of never ever say, well, at least you have, because her house didn't wash away, but at least she had, and I said that to her, and now I totally regret it because somebody said it. Well, at least I lost barely anything. I'm sleeping on a bed that was literally in the basement that got flooded. It's not even that serious, but it was big to me at the time, and I would have punched somebody in the face if they said some little Red Cross volunteer come across. I'll never say that again. So, lesson learned. And then, maybe it had to be learned in that way. That way, fashion karma. Karma works in mysterious ways, my friends. So yes, life drama. I didn't really feel like talking on Wednesday, and I didn't. I think it's better to not be here than try to produce shitty content where I'm just sitting here being all, oh yeah, my basement flooded, and at least now that I can have the perspective to like see it from a distance for what it is, and how grateful that I am that to be reminded of things. Like, I don't have water in the garage that I pretty much live in, and if you know me, I talk about this apocalypse a great deal, and I'm thinking about installing a rainwater capture system instead of reconnecting it to the well that is pumped here. If you also know about me, I use hydroponics, and hydroponics uses a great deal of water. I'm not sure the water capture would work for that. Is my big dilemma. So, needless to say, I've just been avoiding it. That's where I'm at with that. At this point, I'm like, you know what? I don't have water right now. It hasn't bothered me all that much to not have water out here, so there it is. It's like I have water in the house. It's a 5-second walk. I might regret that in the winter when I have to walk across and it's cold. But now it's almost worse because you walk outside and it's like flipping 80 degrees. Not even, it's like 90 degrees with like 102% humidity. You're like, how do you have 202% humidity? It's because literally the moisture from your body is going up as you walk outside. You're like, how? Virginia in the summer is bleh. Virginia in the winter. Bleh. Why do I live here? Trapped. It's gonna be a climate change area. I mean, I don't know why I care about climate change so much. It's gonna be good for me. Be warmer year round. Be nice. I hate the winter here, so if it's like, I think that the fall might be one of my most productive time frames, because I think I can spend the most amount of time outdoors in the fall because you can wear pants. I like weather that I'm able to wear pants and long sleeves and be comfortable. In Virginia, because you have to wear pants and long sleeves to go outside because the bugs leech you to death. You are a bug smorgasbord in Virginia. Okay, anyway, so what we normally do on Wednesdays, when I haven't been all delayed behind, is we talk about the news. So what I do is start off with Google News and go through some interesting articles that are relevant to the rest of us. Whoa! So this big old... I'm not sure where this came from. It's NBC News. I am sure where this came from. So I guess this is considered a reputable source. But I've watched this earlier, and
we have a bit of news from Capitol Hill.
Here we go.
For some, it might be a year overdue for Democrats, but it's not the deal that they had been wishing for, even the one they thought they might get a month ago. Senator Joe Manchin has reached a deal with Chuck Schumer on a reconciliation bill. So what was once the Build Back Better bill that was going to make a huge impact potentially with climate is now going to be called the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022. It is not a sweeping bill. It will not change the way government works. Manchin says it will simply dedicate hundreds of billions to deficit reduction. It will raise some taxes on certain corporations. He says it will deal with energy, healthcare, and the tax code. And of course, that would impact climate as well. But on all of these deals, I think we all should wait until you see it all actually happen and we see the details, what they've actually agreed to versus what's in the press releases. But whatever negotiating was happening, apparently that stuff is over, and they're starting to put some pen to paper.
Thanks for watching our YouTube.
Indeed, NBC News. They have a YouTube channel. That's what you just watched. Go check it out. Senator Joe Manchin is one of my least favorite people. Just I'm sure I've ranted and raved, and if anybody wants me to rant and rave and make a video about Senator Joe Manchin, if you don't know why I don't like Senator Joe Manchin, besides this whole stalling our climate change bill, Twitch. Besides the whole stalling of our climate change bill, there's so many other reasons to not like Joe Manchin. Why is he elected to anything? If you want me to know, we'll do it, but I won't talk about it today. We'll talk about that they're a success finally. He's relenting, so I bet they had to cut even more. They had to rename it and relabel it just to make him happy. He's the only one that's holding us back. Vote him out. You hear me? Vote him out. You hear me? Vote him out. Anywho, that's neither here nor there. Our next business is, I haven't actually watched this. So it's PBS NewsHour on the Trump situation.
New news reports indicate the Department of Justice is investigating former President Donald Trump's actions as part of its larger criminal probe into the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol. To help us understand what all this could mean, I'm joined by former federal prosecutor Renato Mariotti. Renato Mariotti, welcome back to the NewsHour. So based on everything you've read, what does it appear to you that the Justice Department is looking at with regard to former President Trump?
So there was a scheme that was hashed, which I think has been referred to in the media as the fake elector scheme, by which individuals who were not actually chosen by their states as the electors for the Electoral College were drafted and signed certificates that were submitted to the United States Senate purporting to be the electors of the state. There have been recent news reports that some of for example, the attorneys that were preparing those materials actually used the term fake elector in their email conversations. So my understanding, based on what reports have shown, is that the Justice Department believes that fake elector scheme constitutes a crime, and they're investigating the actions and statements of former President Trump with his advisors regarding the implementation of that scheme in the United States Senate. It particularly relates to the former vice president being urged by President Trump to set aside the rightful electoral votes and send it back to the states and/or accept the fraudulent electoral votes instead in order to overturn the election.
So that's one set of potential issues. You also told us that it's possible that the Justice Department is looking at incitement to riot based on information that came out of the January 6th committee hearings.
That's right. I mean, I think if we look purely at what came from the January 6th hearings, the criminal statute that really stands out to me is criminal incitement. And the reason why is because the facts are not really in dispute. Obviously, the former president did give a speech. Many of the people who heard that speech proceeded to attack the United States Capitol and in a violent manner. And the question has always been whether or not there would be sufficient evidence to show that the former president intended to incite imminent lawless action. Because obviously the words of his speech are mixed. You could have arguments that could go both ways. However, some of the testimony, particularly of Cassidy Hutchinson, where she talked about, for example, the former president being aware that the crowd was armed, saying that they would not, were not interested in harming him, but they would be heading to the Capitol, supports an implication that he understood that those individuals would be attacking the Capitol later. There's other statements and evidence that were elicited that also come to that. So I do think the Justice Department is at least considering whether or not that's a potential charge as well.
And whether or not they're investigating him, we don't have any reason or evidence yet to believe that's the case. But you are talking about potential criminal violations. Is that right?
That's right. And I'll just say, both when I was a prosecutor and I'll say now that I'm in private practice, I would always counsel a client that it shouldn't give you any comfort if the Justice Department is looking at your actions in the context of a criminal proceeding, that, whether or not your name is on the file folder of the investigation or not. As a practical matter, the Justice Department has a criminal investigation into what it believes is criminal activity, and it is investigating the former president's words and actions as part of that, and he should be concerned about that.
And we saw in an interview that the Attorney General gave to NBC yesterday, he said anyone who was involved in his words, could be criminally responsible for interfering with the peaceful transfer of power from one administration to the next. He said, we're going to pursue that. Having said that, is former President Trump in any way protected because he's a former president?
I wouldn't say that he's protected. What I would say is that the status that he's the former president makes the trial more complicated because it creates juror issues. There's obviously a number of jurors who would likely have voted for him and supported him. He's very difficult to find jurors who don't know who he is. But separate and apart from that, it also obviously means that any prosecution of the former president is going to have an impact on the country, and that's something for the Attorney General to weigh. I took his comments from the other day to be because they were in the response to questions about potential charges against the former president, to suggest that he felt that that they would pursue charges if they in fact had the evidence to do so.
And just quickly, yes or no, if he were to become a candidate for president again, could that have a bearing on what the Justice Department does?
No, it just might affect the timing.
All right, Renato Mariotti, former federal prosecutor. We're going to leave it there. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Just affect the timing. What is that supposed to wait? No former American president has ever been charged with a crime. All right, so like the hearings are a whole another ball game. I hope if you follow my channel, you're probably following the hearings as well. There's a whole lot of evidence. Like, there's a lot of these Proud Boys and stuff that were at this thing that were like, yeah, when I saw the tweets that Trump said go home, we left. That to me sounds like he was the one who told you to go there in the first place. I mean, like, if you go to a party and some random stranger walks up and is like, go home, and they're like, who are you? You work here or something? What's up? If the person who invited you says go home, you go, okay, and leave. You know? He also sent out a tweet that invited all these people. Like, he never said... Actually, he did say, we're gonna march on the Capitol. Like, he did say that. Like, hey, let's go march on the Capitol. He also said to the Proud Boys, stand back, stand ready. In a presidential debate on live TV. I saw it with my own eyes. I don't know what to tell you guys that don't believe that he did it. And I mean, I feel like before watching the hearings, I believed that Trump was kind of like, oh, this is happening? Let me eat this Big Mac. I'm gonna think about what I'm gonna do about this and see how the dice play. Like, I'm sure if they had taken over the Capitol or taken senators and stuff prisoner and had like what they were planning to do to fruition, like if they'd gotten the vice president, that could have been rough. That could have been like, if they had succeeded to capturing the vice president, I feel like we would not be having this conversation because I'd be in Washington like rioting right now. I mean, like that would have been a whole new ball game. So yeah, I'm glad that's not how it is, and I hope the Department of Justice does something about this. Like, otherwise these hearings are going to be kind of garbage. Especially if he gets to run for office again, I'm going to be mad. I'm going to be mad. All right, so from the Reuters, the Pentagon chief gave Pelosi security assessments, but won't comment on Taiwan. So the Taiwan whole issue is a big deal. We talked about on this channel before about China and Taiwan and how it looks like China is just kind of waiting for the right time to militarily invade Taiwan, and that's pretty huge for us because right now they're giving us a great deal of microchips. I feel like we as the United States would go to war over Taiwan because of the microchip situation. They would shut us down if we did not have these microchips, and that's the real truth of it. We're getting microchips. There's a microchip bill that'll pass Congress lickety split because everybody in Congress was like, oh, well, if China decides to stop giving us microchips and then Taiwan is part of China, we ain't gonna have no microchips. So, yep, Taiwan is big. But like I don't really know if China's going to do it, because even if they do it and we hit them with sanctions, China's economy is already in turmoil. I feel like sanctions on the Chinese people would hurt everyone. Like the world economy would basically stop, because we, like China and the US, are the biggest two economies in the world, and if they suddenly were separated economically, they would probably both collapse. And then everything else, like, that would be devastating if this, oh god. Let's not even talk about it, but here it is. She's talking about going to a visit, and if she does visit, that's good. That's gonna show. But we don't really have that situation, and President's already been, and if we start making like official diplomatic ties with Taiwan, that's gonna make China nervous. Like they're gonna make a move before we make like official sanctions. If we start, that'll protect that, because like if we get the aid of the rest of the world on us, China might have to give up, because they don't really, like, they make a lot of stuff, but that does you no good if it's all garbage. You know, like they make their trade off trade, to sending it to other countries where we go, ha, here, I let my dog play with this for a day and then throw it away. But that's not a sustainable lifestyle if that's all you make. Like, indeed, that's an issue we need to be concerned about. Keep your eyes on Taiwan. If she goes to a visit, we will keep our eyes on said visit. But nothing's been confirmed yet. They're just talking about that she could, like, she now has permission to go. Speaking of bad economies and how all this shit's going on, the Fed unleashes another rate hike in bid to curb inflation. Let's see what he has to say. I will tell you, these videos are usually like about as entertaining as watching grass grow. I'm just gonna throw it in the universe. And then you're like, how long till he's on stage?
To do so. We have both the tools we need and the resolve it will take to restore price stability on behalf of American families and businesses. The economy and the country have been through a lot over the past 2.5 years and have proved resilient. It is essential that we bring inflation down to our 2% goal if we are to have a sustained period of strong labor market conditions that benefit all. From the standpoint of our congressional mandate to promote maximum employment and price stability, the current picture is plain to see. The labor market is extremely tight, and inflation is much too high. Against this backdrop, today the FOMC raised its policy interest rate by 0.75 of a percentage point and anticipates that ongoing increases in the target range for the federal funds rate will be appropriate. In addition, we are continuing the process of significantly reducing the size of our balance sheet. And I'll have more to say about today's monetary policy actions after briefly reviewing economic developments. Recent indicators of spending and production have softened. Growth in consumer spending has slowed significantly, in part reflecting lower real disposable income and tighter financial conditions. Activity in the housing sector has weakened, in part reflecting higher mortgage rates. And after a strong increase in the first quarter, business fixed investment also looks to have declined in the second quarter. Despite these developments, the labor market has remained extremely tight, with the unemployment rate near a 50-year low, job vacancies near historical highs, and wage growth elevated. Over the past 3 months, employment rose by an average of 375,000 jobs per month, down from the average pace seen earlier in the year, but still robust. Improvements in labor market conditions have been widespread, including for workers at the lower end of the wage distribution, as well as for African Americans and Hispanics. Labor demand is very strong, while labor supply remains subdued, with the labor force participation rate little changed since January. Overall, the continued strength of the labor market suggests that underlying aggregate demand remains solid.
So dull.
Inflation remains well above our longer-run goal of 2%. Over the 12 months ending in May, total PCE prices rose 6.3%, excluding the volatile food and energy categories. Core PCE prices rose 4.7%. In June, the 12-month change in the Consumer Price Index came in above expectations at 9.1%,
Just eyebrows.
and the
Like, oh,
change in the
even
core
I'm surprised by
CPI
that.
was 5.9%. Notwithstanding the recent slowdown in overall economic activity, aggregate demand appears to remain strong. Supply constraints have been larger and longer lasting than anticipated, and price pressures are evident across a broad range of goods and services. Although prices for some commodities have turned down recently, the earlier surge in prices of crude oil and other commodities that resulted from Russia's war on Ukraine has boosted prices for gasoline and food, creating additional upward pressure on inflation. The Fed's monetary policy actions are guided by our mandate to promote maximum employment and stable prices for the American people. My colleagues and I are acutely aware that high inflation imposes significant hardship, especially on those least able to meet the higher costs of essentials like food, housing, and transportation. We are highly attentive to the risks high inflation poses to both sides of our mandate, and we're strongly committed to returning inflation to our 2% objective. At today's meeting, the committee raised the target range for the federal funds rate by 0.75 of a percentage point, bringing the target range to 2.25% to 2.5%. And we're continuing the process of significantly reducing the size of our balance sheet, which plays an important role in firming the stance of monetary policy. Over coming months, we will be looking for compelling evidence that inflation is moving down, consistent with inflation returning to 2%. We anticipate that ongoing increases in the target range for the federal funds rate will be appropriate. The pace of those increases will continue to depend on the incoming data and evolving outlook for the economy. Today's increase in the target range is the second 75 basis point increase in as many meetings. While another unusually large increase could be appropriate at our next meeting, that is a decision that will depend on the data we get between now and then. We will continue to make our decisions meeting by meeting and communicate our thinking as clearly as possible. As the stance of monetary policy tightens further, it likely will become appropriate to slow the pace of increases while we assess how our cumulative policy adjustments are affecting the economy and inflation. Our overarching focus is using our tools to bring demand into better balance with supply in order to bring inflation back down to our 2% goal and to keep longer-term inflation expectations well anchored. Making appropriate monetary policy in this uncertain environment requires a recognition that the economy often evolves in unexpected ways. Inflation has obviously surprised to the upside over the past year, and further surprises could be in store. We therefore will need to be nimble in responding to incoming data and the evolving outlook. And we will strive to avoid adding uncertainty in what is already an extraordinarily challenging and uncertain time.
Yawn. I can't watch him anymore. I can't. So, what we take away from that is that the rate hike went up 0.75, and it went up every time they've met so far, it goes up 0.75. And he thinks it might be appropriate in the next one. It's going to go up again, probably. So, yikes. Now's not the time to be borrowing. I hope to weather this storm financially. Cross your fingers. The dollar still holds up its value. Terrifying. Anywho, the next one is Fox News, because it was the one article I found on Fox News that I was like, oh, I might actually be interested. Like, I don't know what's going on in Idaho, but Fox News won't even allow me to go to their site unless I allow ads, and I'm not gonna. So womp 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 womp. Fox News is just an asshole. Even CNN gives you a pop-up that's like, hey, you're using an ad block, and lets you continue to pay. Like you can skip through. At least I respect that. Like, I get it. I'm stealing it from you as a content creator. I should use an ad. I shouldn't use an ad blocker. I don't believe you should have to pay. You shouldn't have to pay for me either. Nah, I feel like I don't know how you could just be like, I'll never affiliate because of whatever. Anywho, the last article I want to keep, well, maybe not the last, because I have stuff we haven't talked about the war or the climate news either today, but this is what happened before the situation. This is the next, we got to keep up with Roe v. Wade and what's going on. So here's a new article about this guy. Not this guy, but, you know, fight. the fight. I love her face.
Here we are again.
It's like, I'm not taking your shit.
I have one side of my sign says vote pro-choice because we cannot go back again. The other side of the sign says pro-choice and pro-child. I guess I'm here because I remember pre-1973, pre-Roe v. Wade.
Which is ridiculous.
And I well remember when I was that young, hearing way too much about girls, teenagers, even younger than teenagers, and women performing abortions on themselves or getting very dangerous, illegal abortions. So abortions don't go away. They just become unsafe if you restrict them.
My body, my choice! My body, my choice! My body, my choice!
That's a pretty story.
What you're doing is you're saying the consequences that come from sex, I don't want. But they come from it.
If you don't choose to,
Listen,
you don't choose to have sex as a 10-year-old child, I'm not choosing to have sex. I'm not choosing to have sex.
I'm talking about
Most
those who
10-year-old
do
children.
choose.
And how many 10-year-old children
I'm not
are
talking
choosing
about a
to have
10-year-old child. I'm
sex?
talking about a person who chooses. That was my question. When two people choose to have sex, don't they choose?
Bands off our bodies at 3 o'clock. Bands off our bodies at 3 o'clock.
Thank you,
Bands
dear.
off our bodies at 3 o'clock.
O'clock.
He ain't got a uterus. Get out of here.
Daddy has a penis.
You guys think it's just
Oh, I know. He's an idiot. Don't even talk to him. We're not gonna engage. Leave these women alone. Quit harassing women. Quit harassing women. Quit harassing women. Look at you, harassing women.
We will fight back! We will fight back! We will fight back!
What did he think he was going to accomplish when he went to the protests? Like, talk about a shit stirrer.
When in some of the textbooks that I read that have pictures of what women looked like when they died of illegal abortions or abortions that were not medical, they were botched abortions, and it's just they stick with me. And I have on my sign I have trust women's wisdom.
Like, I'm sure she gave consent.
And I think that's a powerful thing. Women's wisdom has often been considered like something that isn't as powerful as what it is. And women know what to do, you know, and it's not an easy decision for a lot of women, but it's essential that the woman is the one who makes that decision.
Says all rights begin with the right to life. If you don't have a right to be alive, it doesn't make any difference if you have a right to a speedy trial, right to own firearms, a right to anything else, if you don't have a right to be alive in the first place. Well, I'm 76 years old and became a Christian at age 29 and came to realize that we do have there is a God who is controlling things, and we don't really need to take charge of what we think is best for us, that we need to look to Him for guidance.
So I want to say
support life. We believe life begins when an egg is fertilized, so it's an important issue for me, especially because my mom was adopted, and you know, her mom was not married and didn't have a lot of money, but instead of, you know, getting an abortion, she chose adoption. And so, you know, personally it's important to me to be here and to support pro-life. We believe in the value of every life, whether, you know, an egg is fully developed into, you know, what we would recognize as a human or not. You know, life begins at fertilization, so an egg, you know, a zygote, a fetus, it's all life. So it's all important.
That's a whole situation. DW. I love them, great news source, but
Ukraine says it will.
I don't think we're gonna transition into that right this second. So like, I just don't get it. They have like, I've never heard anybody make religion an argument for it that wasn't religious. And our country was founded on religious freedom, right? I mean, like, the Protestants fled Europe because of persecution of the Christian religion, surely, but they respected the right to people to worship other people. This is not a Christian state. Like, it wasn't founded as a Christian religion state. That's why I'm like, you can't use that as a legal argument. Like, what's your legal argument against it? Doesn't matter what that is, what your opinions are. It's a legal argument. How do you make that? So we'll see how this plays out. I hope somebody takes just a different case to the Supreme Court, and they have to be like, oh, well, obviously this is a constitutional right. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, I believe, allows you to do whatever you want to do with your body. It's yours to do with it as you want to. It's the one thing they can't take away from you is your physical body. Yours. They can take away bits and pieces of it, but you take away too much and it's gone completely, so, On that delightful note, this Ukraine, I haven't actually seen it. It's a 16-minute video. I don't think we really want to go all that far. Keep watching a 16-minute video of this. We haven't done a climate change search. Where's my other bit? Hold on. I have too many open windows. And I really thought I had a good... Right, there it is. That's usually in the science stuff. Like, all our science corner things, very Mars heavy. Very Mars heavy. First mission to return samples from another planet set to land on Earth in 2033. That's what we love about space travel. Is everybody's like, why are they rushing off into space? Like, everything takes so long in space right now. So, like, it's a thing. We have to start. I'll be lucky if we actually get this done by the time I'm dead. Like, I heard Elon Musk talk about it. He's like, we'll never get Mars sustainable in his lifetime, and he's my age, so I'll be lucky if I see it too. But maybe I'll get to go. I would go to Mars. Elon, take me away. I mean that in all kinds of senses. Elon, take me away. Gravitas, out of control, Chinese rocket to crash on Earth. What?
And here's a reminder, next week, debris from a Chinese rocket is expected to crash on Earth. No one knows where exactly. The debris belongs to the Long March 5B rocket, a Chinese rocket launched on the 24th of July. It was left in uncontrolled orbit. The rocket's booster stage is now headed back. You know what's worse? This is happening for the third time. Chinese rockets, or parts of them, have crashed back on Earth at least twice before, once in 2020, then again in 2021. Why is China being so irresponsible? And what consequences could its actions have? Here's a report.
China.
2、1，点火！点火！
It took off in glory. It's returning in pieces. China's rogue rocket, the Long March 5B, is headed back to Earth. On the 24th of July, the rocket was launched in style from the Hainan province. It was carrying a module for the Tiangong space station. Once the job was done, China left the rocket's booster stage in uncontrolled orbit, instead of making a controlled descent to Earth. The huge booster is now headed back, disoriented and disintegrated. How much does it weigh? 20 tons. Where will it crash? No one knows. The object will break apart as it enters the atmosphere. The debris could be scattered all over Earth. According to the Aerospace Corporation, the possible crash sites could be in the US, Brazil, Africa, India, Southeast Asia, and Australia. And how severe will the impact be? It's difficult to assess, but experts say the crash won't pose a risk to people, and yet it's a matter of concern. You see, this is the third time China has done this, left a rocket in uncontrolled orbit. In 2020, the first Long March 5B rocket crashed in West Africa. The debris caused damage, but no injuries. In 2021, debris from the second Long March 5B rocket crashed in the Indian Ocean. It splashed harmlessly in the waters, but sent diplomatic shockwaves.
I think that's all you can ask for, is you hope it's sudden.
Now, debris from a third Chinese rocket is headed towards Earth. Scientists the world over have had enough. They're lambasting China for failing to meet safety standards. Also for violating international regulations on space debris. China is calling their complaints hype, and the media reports fabricated.
The report you mentioned is a political lie fabricated by a few...
I probably ought to call it a night, since nobody's really watching anyway, I don't think. You're watching out there and you're like, oh god, no, please don't call it a night. Now's your time to put something in the stream and chat. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow. We're here every Wednesday. We're going to try to do great things. We want to do feedback, leave information in the Discord. This is the YouTube channel that I'm really bad about using, but there it is. So check it out, and we'll be back here next week. Thank you guys for being here. It is always a pleasure to let myself vent, and you guys get to see all the crazy news that I see. Maybe that's to form the same opinions. I often talk about that, but we'll see. So thanks again, have a great night, and goodbye.